Welcome to the Pardesh channel. Today we explain Exodus chapter 3 in a clear and simple way, step by step. Now I want you to picture this. An 80-year-old shepherd, a guy who has lived completely off the grid in the isolated wilderness for decades, is just going about his totally ordinary day. But then, out of nowhere, he encounters this impossible, literally physics-defying anomaly. And that single, totally inexplicable moment sets off a direct, face-to-face conversation with the divine. It's the catalyst for a chain of events that will absolutely fundamentally alter human history. So, in this explainer, we're going to walk through this exact moment together, going verse by verse. We'll be looking strictly at the simple meaning, what's called the Peshat of the text, so we can understand exactly who, what, where, and why this all goes down.
Okay, let's dive into this. We have a super clear path today. First, context and the burning bush. Second, the call to action. Third, Moses' hesitation. Fourth, the mission instructions. Fifth, key lessons. And finally, a quick chapter recap.
All right, section 1, context and the burning bush. We're starting with Exodus chapter 3, verses 1 through 3.
So just to set the scene, right now the Israelites are suffering through some truly brutal slavery back in Egypt. But Moses, he's far, far away from all of that. Verse 1 tells us exactly where we are. Moses is working. He's tending the flock of his father-in-law, Jethro, or Yitro in Hebrew, who is the priest of Midian. Now Moses leads this flock way out to the far side of the wilderness to a place called Horeb, or in Hebrew, Korev, and that literally translates to dryness or desolation. The text also calls this the mountain of God. So think about it. Moses is essentially a fugitive from Egypt, living this quiet, incredibly pastoral life. He is completely unaware that everything he knows is about to change in a matter of seconds.
Now what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer visual paradox we see in verse 2. An angel of the Lord appears to Moses in flames of fire from right inside a bush. And the Hebrew word used here is seneh, which basically means a lowly, thorny little shrub. Nothing majestic, right? But the incredible anomaly here isn't just that there's a fire. It's that the bush is totally engulfed in flames, yet the wood and the leaves, they aren't being consumed. It just doesn't burn up. No wonder in verse 3, plain old human curiosity kicks in. Moses actually says to himself, "I will go over and see this strange sight." He makes a choice. He actively steps out of his totally normal routine to investigate the impossible.
Moving to section 2, the call to action. This covers verses 4 through 10.
Once Moses takes that step toward the bush, the true encounter actually begins. In verse 4, when the Lord sees that Moses has gone over to look, God calls out to him directly from inside the bush, "Moses, Moses." And Moses responds with this absolute, grounded presence. He says, "Here I am," which in Hebrew is hineni. Immediately in verse 5, God establishes a firm boundary. He says, "Do not come any closer. Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground." In Hebrew, that's Admit Kadesh. By literally removing his sandals, Moses is shedding the physical barrier between himself and this incredibly sacred space. The ordinary dusty desert dirt has been completely transformed just by the presence of the divine. Next, God establishes his identity, right? In verse 6, he anchors himself firmly in the patriarchs. He says, "I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." Moses is so terrified by this that he actually hides his face. But God doesn't just dwell in the past. If we look at verses 7 through 9, God explicitly states, "I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard them crying out, and I am concerned about their suffering." This is massive. God completely validates the pain of the enslaved Israelites, and he promises to rescue them and bring them into a land flowing with milk and honey. He absolutely has not forgotten them.
And then, boom, we hit verse 10. After explaining that he has heard the cries of the Israelites, God drops the ultimate command. He tells Moses, "So now, go. I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt." I mean, wow. It is direct, it is concise, and it is overwhelmingly massive. God isn't just saying, "Hey, don't worry, I'm going to handle this." No, he is actively recruiting Moses to be his messenger and his leader. He's telling a humble shepherd to go confront the single most powerful ruler in the entire ancient world. No pressure, right?
Section 3. Moses hesitates, God answers. Looking at verses 11 through 15.
Honestly, how does a simple guy tending sheep respond to being told to take down an empire? Well, with some really deep hesitation. In verse 11, Moses asks, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?" You can hear it, right? He is hyper-focused on his own limitations. his lack of status, his sheer feeling of inadequacy for this monumental job. But look at verse 12. God doesn't start listing off Moses' resume or trying to pump up his ego. God simply and powerfully answers, "Certainly I will be with you." The success of this mission won't rely on who Moses is, it relies entirely on who is going with Moses. God also gives him a sign of reassurance, promising that when Moses brings the people out, they will return to worship God right there on that very same mountain.
But Moses still needs a bit more practical authority to actually pull this off. So, in verse 13, he poses a highly logical question. He asks, "Suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, 'The God of your fathers has sent me to you,' and they ask me, 'What is his name?' Then what shall I tell them?" You see, Moses is anticipating some heavy resistance here. In a deeply polytheistic Egyptian culture, where literally every god had a specific name and a specific function, the Israelites are going to want proof. They're going to want to know exactly which divine authority is backing this completely impossible rescue mission.
And this brilliantly illustrates the revelation in verses 14 and 15. God reveals his foundational name, I am who I am. In Hebrew, that's Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh. This isn't just a basic title. It actually translates closer to I will be what I will be. It's this profound statement of absolute, eternal, and incredibly active existence. God instructs Moses to tell the people, I am has sent me to you. Furthermore, he clarifies that he is the Lord, the God of their fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He explicitly states this is his eternal name, the name by which he is to be remembered from generation to generation forever.
Section 4. Instructions for the mission. Here are verses 16 through 22.
The simple meaning of the text here lays out 4 very clear steps for this mission. It's like a strategic blueprint. First, in verse 16, Moses has to go assemble the elders of Israel. He needs to tell them that the God of their fathers has appeared to him and has been watching over them in their misery. Second, verse 18 promises that the elders will actually listen, and together they are to go directly to the king of Egypt. Third, they aren't going to barge in and demand full emancipation right away. They are instructed to say that God of the Hebrews has met with us. Let us take a 3-day journey into the desert to offer sacrifices to the Lord our God. And fourth, God warns Moses immediately, prepare for some serious resistance.
Let's look closely at the nuances of that third step. Comparing translations of verse 18, like the Jewish Publication Society Tanakh on one side and the New International Version on the other, we see phrases like 3 days' journey into the wilderness or into the desert. Both of these really clarify the geography. They are asking Pharaoh for just a brief leave of absence out of Egyptian territory and into the completely desolate, uninhabited areas. This is a very measured, strategic initial request. It's essentially a test to see if Pharaoh will even allow them to perform their religious sacrifices without offending the local Egyptian sensibilities.
But God sets the expectations perfectly in verse 19. He tells Moses straight up, I know that the king of Egypt will not let you go unless a mighty hand compels him. The Hebrew phrase here is Yad Shazakah. God is explicitly foreshadowing the plagues here. In verse 20, God promises to stretch out his hand and strike the Egyptians with wonders. He's letting Moses know that it is only after this undeniable, absolute divine intervention that Pharaoh will finally break down and let the Israelites go.
To close out the instructions for this chapter, verses 21 and 22 address a huge economic reality, their slavery. God promises that when the Israelites finally do leave, they are not going to go empty-handed. He instructs that every Israelite woman should ask her Egyptian neighbor for articles of silver, gold, and clothing. They will essentially plunder the Egyptians. Now, it's crucial to understand this isn't random theft. It's presented in the text as true, fundamental justice. It is a massive, long overdue material restitution for generations of unpaid, brutal slave labor.
Section 5. Key ideas and lessons. Let's look at the simple, practical takeaways from all of this.
So the crucial point is, what does this actually mean for us today? First off, God hears and sees human suffering. The text goes totally out of its way to emphasize that the pain of the enslaved Israelites did not go unnoticed. Second, imposter syndrome? Yeah, it's ancient. Moses, who becomes one of the greatest leaders in all of human history, initially responds to his huge calling with, "Who am I?" His self-doubt is profoundly relatable to all of us. And third, divine reassurance is what equips us for truly daunting tasks. The solution to fear isn't just mustering up a sudden surge of self-confidence, it's that profound, bedrock reassurance that you absolutely aren't walking into your battles alone.
And finally, Section 6, Exodus chapter 3 recap. Let's review the timeline. Let's move to and see how this narrative arc builds across the timeline to really solidify our understanding. We started with the context of the past years. The Israelites are being terribly oppressed in Egypt, but they are remembered by the God of the patriarchs. Then we zoomed right into the present day. Moses is experiencing the mind-blowing anomaly of the burning bush at Horeb and receiving his direct, personal call to action. From there, God laid out the immediate plan, the request for a proposed 3-day journey into the desert to sacrifice. And finally, God revealed the future time, Pharaoh's guaranteed resistance, the mighty hand of God striking Egypt, and the ultimate, total deliverance and just restitution for the Israelite people.
I want to leave you with this one final, provocative thought. When faced with your own daunting call to action, whatever that huge thing may be in your own life, will you focus on your limitations or on the reassurance of the presence that guides you? Thank you for learning with us. If this helped you understand the chapter better, like, subscribe, and join us for the next chapter.